What's up, wall fans, common sensors, and of course, podcast consumers? Welcome to the live feed for Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, and this is episode 78. Let's see how many times I screw that up because I did not update my whiteboard here, so I often look up to that, and I'll probably say episode 77 a few times, but what are you going to do? You know, these things happen. It's not like we're running a professional podcast here. Maybe we are, once in a while. All right, all that being said, we got a lot to get into today. I'm a little bit behind, not terribly. Just took a little bit extra time getting the studio set up today, and we're in this weird in-between time of weather where it's like warm but not warm, and I feel bad running an air conditioner, but then I come into the studio and I start sweating like crazy because I'm in this tiny room with all this junk putting off heat. All right, all that being said, let's just get right into episode 78 of Common Sense Sundays.
Who 1, 2, 3, go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall. Go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall.
All right, wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers. Welcome to another very exciting edition of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. And this is episode 78 on this fine Sunday in May. We're getting some decent weather here, but it's always too hot for me. I run a little hot, so I'm going to be probably a little bit of sweating going on in the studio today because I don't want to run the air because it's not that hot out, and everyone else in the house doesn't really run quite as hot as I do. So apologies for the forehead shine, those of you that are watching the video feed. But of course, before we get into our weekly dose of common sense, we always kick things off with our social plugs. You can keep up with us during episodes, after episodes, for episodes, whenever you so please, and you can do that in multiple locations. One of those would be facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. That's right, facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. If you're a Facebook user, make sure you are following our Facebook page. That's going to keep you updated on anything and everything that is Go Tell It to the Wall and Common Sense Sundays. And then, of course, we have our YouTube channel, youtube.com/GoTellItToTheWall. Again, youtube.com/GoTellItToTheWall. Pretty much you search those things, too. You know, it'll still come up. But we have these nice custom URLs, so I like to throw them out there. And if you're an Instagram user, go ahead and follow me on Instagram, my own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean, at SoCalSean. And, of course, if you use none of those platforms, you use the internet. And if that's the case, make sure you bookmark our website, the official website for Go Tell It to the Wall, Common Sense Sundays, and Sean O'Rourke Live. That would be SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's right, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's going to connect you to all those things I just mentioned, a lot of stuff up there, some exclusive stuff that you don't find on any of our social platforms. And, of course, you're also going to find our Patreon campaign up there, as well as our merch website links directly from SeanO'RourkeLive.com. So if you want to support us financially, one of those two ways is the best way to go about it. Pick up some merch and or become a patron of Go Tell It to the Wall. You want to. And every little bit helps. I often say that. Every little bit helps when it comes to Patreon and picking up some merch. So if you have the means to do it and you want to help us out, that would be the best places to do it. All right, and before we get into socials, I got to say I'm recovering a little bit today. Recovering not in like a crazy way. We went for like a little day camping trip. It's my brother-in-law's birthday this weekend, so he's up in the mountains camping with some people. I wasn't quite ready to bring the dog. Only had him 3 weeks. I didn't know how that would go, and sure enough, we get up there and they're like, "Oh yeah, we just saw a coyote." It's like, all right, I don't have the patience yet for this dog to keep him away from coyotes and stuff. But we had a nice day up there. The dog smelled all of the things. Who knows if he's been like at elevation in the mountains like that before. Smelled all the things. Had some fun hanging out. Had the kiddo up there. She was having a blast. One thing I always forget about camping, because I don't go camping that often, especially over the past couple of years because of COVID. I haven't really done much of anything. Of course, I took a long road trip, but that's an RV, and we didn't have a lot of fires. But what I always forget, and then I leave the campground and I go, oh yeah, so we had a big fire going. And I swear I'm still smelling fire. I have showered, but I did not wash my hair today. So I think I'm getting a little bit of that campfire smell from my hair, which is nice when you're around a campfire. But once you have left the campfire, you're kind of like, what? Why am I still smelling this? I was even wearing a beanie, but it seeped through the beanie. I can smell it like on my hair. So that's my recovery. It's kind of getting rid of the fire smell, I guess. and on clothes and stuff too. I swear the dog probably smells like fire too. I don't know. I haven't really noticed. He's a dog, so he kind of smells funky all the time. All right. Now that we're through that, let's get into some digital trends from the past week or so. Of course, always revolving around common sense or just fun. In fact, this one hit me good, and it's funny because I posted a photo of Falcor, our dog, like Wednesday or Thursday, and then sure enough, scrolling through some stuff on Friday, and it turns out Friday, 2 days ago, was actually hashtag National Rescue Dog Day. So I know this has already passed, but I wanted to point it out to all of you. And if you're someone that has rescued a dog or picked up a dog through rescue or adoption, that's kind of a day for you to celebrate your dog. You know, maybe post some photos and everything else. And it does bring me to an important point, and that would be adopt, don't shop. That's very important. There's so many dogs in shelters and at rescues that need homes. We don't need to be purchasing from puppy mills and pet stores and stuff. You know, you want to go get a goldfish, great, pet store. Don't pick up dogs at a pet store. Go to your local shelter, contact a rescue. There are rescues nationwide. In fact, my aunt, who lives in the Chicago area, she's heavily involved with a rescue, and gets in the trenches, talking, rescuing dogs from puppy mills and stuff. And her house is constant chaos of puppies and dogs because then she fosters them. But when you see that kind of firsthand, you realize like how terrible it is to go out and shop for a dog when there's so many dogs out there that need a home. So keep that in mind. I'm not going to chastise anyone that's purchased a dog or whatever. And there's always adoption fees. You're still paying, but consider a dog that is looking for a home and is sitting in a shelter somewhere, as opposed to supporting puppy mills and stuff like that. I think that's the biggest takeaway there. Always adopt. All right, hashtag PacMan Birthday. That's right. Apparently, today is Pac-Man's birthday. Now, of course, that means like the day Pac-Man was released in arcades, because that was one of the original like cool arcade games for those of you that are of a certain age. And it's actually 42 years old. 42 years of Pac-Man. And something I find fascinating is as simple of a game as it is, it's kind of still around. You see it pop up in like mobile games. And there's been cartoons, all kinds of crazy stuff, and the different iterations over the years. And we're not talking just Miss Pac-Man. We're like all kinds of 3D Pac-Man and all these other things. And some of the games were successful, some weren't. But the original Pac-Man still a mainstay to this day, I would say. And I guarantee you go into these newer arcades like the barcades and stuff. And I know for a fact there's one right by me. They have the stand-up Pac-Man. And then one of my favorites, you'd always find them in pizza joints in the Midwest, is like the sit-down Pac-Man, and you sit there like across from someone, and you're controlling it like flat in front of you instead of like vertical in front of you. It's like horizontal. Yeah. Sometimes words escape me. So happy birthday to Pac-Man. For those of you that are big gamers out there, maybe play a little Pac-Man today. I might bust out because we got a couple of we got the NES Classic and one of the Atari things. I wonder if we can play some Pac-Man today. I bet the kiddo would enjoy that. She hasn't really played video games yet, but something simple like Pac-Man might be the way to go. All right, and moving along to hashtag World Goth Day. I find it's great. We have Pac-Man being celebrated today, as well as goth culture. That is correct. It is World Goth Day, hashtag World Goth Day. So apparently, people around the world that embrace the goth lifestyle are celebrating today, and of course, sharing photos of themselves in their goth lifestyle, or their them and their goth friends. Now, there's always a saying that everyone went through a little bit of a goth phase. I really did not, and I think this is a product of living somewhat close to the beach. Grew up in the punk rock scene, and city to city it varies a little. You got the hardcore scene in New York. You got a little more rockabilly, like up in the Bay Area. In San Diego, it's like surf pop punk, and so because of that, the goth style was around. We had Hot Topic, and to be fair, I do wear pretty much nothing but black shirts. However, outside of that, I've never been a eyeliner wearer or anything. And I mean, embrace the style yourself. It's just I never went through that phase. Though I do know a lot of people that went through that phase, and a lot of people that are still in that phase. So nothing wrong. It's just kind of your own. Everyone should have their own personal style. And if that's your style, today, hashtag World Goth Day is the day to celebrate it. Yeah. All right. We have another challenge that is making the rounds on TikTok and whatnot. And you know that if you've listened to me for any amount of time, really, even if you've only listened for like 2 months, you know that when these challenges come up, especially with the birth of TikTok over the past couple years, most times they are ridiculous, and I don't have good things to say about them. However, sometimes there's a fun one that comes along. And I'll be honest, we're not going to do this one in the studio today because I can't do it with my headphones on. But an example of a fun challenge was the whole Vans challenge and we literally did that in studio. I did it while we were recording. It's where you throw a Vans shoe in the air and it's supposed to land, sole down, and they pretty much do most of the time. And there's no shortage of Vans in this house to experiment with that. So those challenges I can get behind. They're fun. And this one's actually kind of interesting. It is the hanger reflex challenge. Actually catching fire on TikTok and then making its way around all of the social platforms. And what this one is, you take a hanger, like a wire hanger. I don't think this would work with a plastic hanger or one of those the thin hangers. That's what I use because I fit more crap in my closet with those thin velvet hanger things. So you put it on your head, like around your head as if you're putting a hat on. And then what happens, if you haven't seen this anywhere, your head inadvertently turns to the side once you've done that. And I don't go on TikTok. I recommend nobody go on TikTok for reasons we've discussed on this podcast before. But I did see some videos of it, and it's amazing. These are genuine reactions, from younger people. Their head turns, and you can see the look on their face that they are not. It's not like a Ouija board back in the 80s where somebody moving that thing around. No, they genuinely their heads just reflexively move. For some reason, I did a little extra research on this, which is not a theme of go tell it to the wall, as you know, but sometimes, curiosity gets to me. And apparently this has been a thing since 1991. It came up in 1991. And the other interesting thing is scientists don't really have an exact explanation for why that reflex happens. And something didn't put the exact percentage in front of me, but something like 98.7% of individuals have this reflex. It's really amazing. I'm afraid to try it because if my head I'll be like, okay, but my head would probably do it. I'm just not going to do it in the studio because I got these headphones on. And I don't think that most people just like to listen to the audio. They don't want to see me making a complete fool of myself more than what I usually do on a weekly basis. So feel free to try that one out. And I can say it's a harmless challenge that I never have a problem with. Don't put the hanger around your neck or anything, but if you're going to put it on your head, just make sure it's not too tight and you can get the damn hanger off. Try it out and see if your head turns, All right, and of course, still dominating the social platforms, all the digital, you cannot escape it right now, is the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. It's really getting exhausting. It was exhausting the first week when we had to deal with all the poop memes. I was done after a day. I fail to understand the fascination with watching this trial. What is so enticing about it? Maybe someone will let me know. Hit me up on SeanO'RourkeLive.com. Send me a message. I don't see the enticement. I'm not even interested in the little clips. I'm getting YouTube notifications every day that said, "Oh, Amber Heard embarrassed on the stand," or stuff like that. It's why do I care this much about this? And it really got me thinking back to the 90s when real live courtroom footage, watching it live was a thing that everybody did. I'm sure it existed before that, but the O.J. Simpson trial definitely sticks out in your head. If you were alive back then, unless you were very, very, very young, you remember it. Everybody was watching that damn thing, and I was youngish, so I wasn't that interested, but yeah. I mean, we stopped school on the day that the verdict was read. They rolled a TV in, and we watched the verdict live. I still remember teachers just shaking their heads and walking out the room. For obvious reasons. I'm not trying to spark a debate about that. And then we had the Menendez brothers or whatever who were accused of killing their parents. That became a cultural phenomenon. I feel like it wasn't happening that much until now. And I'm sure there were. Don't come at me and say, "Oh, no, they're this and this and this and this." Well, honestly, I don't remember. Those are the ones I remember from the 90s. And now this getting shoved in my face every other day. I just fail to understand the fascination. If you enjoy it, enjoy it. To me, it's why do I care? I don't care. I don't know these people. If I knew them personally, yeah, I'd probably care. Be like, what's going on? If I was friends with Johnny Depp, yeah, but I have no rooting interest in what the hell's going on here. It's just not. Oh, it's famous rich people fighting in a courtroom. Like, come on. This is not for me. All right, some COVID updates. Oh, man. Good old COVID. Just never going away. We're riding those waves, Oh, feeling better. Oh, no. Oh, yep, that's what we're doing lately. But we do have some good news coming out of that. We kind of knew. I knew this was coming. They're getting ready to authorize boosters for kids 5 to 11. So kids that have already been vaccinated, gotten their first 2 shots. My kid included, who got her first shot literally the day she was eligible for it. So she's probably going to have to be getting a booster soon. And this is good, except for the people out there that say, well, why do we have to keep getting shots? And it's like, you constantly get shots throughout your life. It's something that happens. You get booster shots for certain things that you have been immunized against. This happens throughout your life. You want to go travel somewhere, you're getting some shots. So calm down with that. Get the shot. If it's going to keep your kids safer, well worth it. I'm still seeing tons of people getting positive cases, people that I know personally. And for the most part, everyone that I know personally has not had an extremely hard time with it, because everyone I know personally that has had it is also vaccinated. And we are seeing clear evidence that helps when it comes to serious sickness from COVID and or hospitalization. So make sure you're checking to see if your kids are eligible and if they're going to need it. That's something to work on with your healthcare provider. But as you know, as any listener of this podcast has over the past 2.5 years, that we are at Go Tell It to the Wall very much in favor of vaccines, especially if it's going to help get out of this 2.5-year nightmare that we're still in. For the love of God, it's like, come on, never ending. And in fact, we have more bands. I feel like every week I'm like, well, here's more bands that Bad Cop unfortunately had to cancel the last 4 stops on their tour they were currently on. They just ended the tour early, unfortunately. It sounds like they're all going to be safe, which is the number one thing. But then that's the frustration of you're taking money out of these bands' pockets. They spent 2 years having trouble trying to get out on the road, and now they're being rewarded by constantly picking up positive cases within their touring parties. So please, for the love of God, wear a mask if you're going to these shows, and especially if you're getting up in the faces of some of your favorite artists, because you want them to continue making music. You want them to continue touring and making money. That's how this works. You know, come on. So keep that in mind if you're going to any kind of shows or any kind of gathering out there. And in fact, the lack of masks indoors, and actually Pearl Jam had to cancel. They canceled the end of their tour as well, like 2 shows, and they just canceled. And we're hitting a point where instead of rescheduling, they're literally having to cancel. And then, of course, the lack of masks, which I am seeing like crazy. I went to Target the other day. Minimal amount of people wearing masks. And I realized that it is not a requirement anymore. However, this is very much a common sense situation where if you watch the news, you read any kind of article, you know that numbers are going up, and the CDC has actually recommended that you start wearing masks indoors again to keep yourselves safe, yourself and others safe. And I'll tell you, Target, nobody cared there. Of course, I'm in a mask, but nobody else cared. We're hitting this with all the numbers going up. I feel like I need to bust out my zombie teeth clothing shirt that says, wear a mask, you dumb shit. We had that on the podcast 1.5 years ago, for the love of God. But we're still here. Just use common sense. Whether it's required or not, look at the numbers. It's simple as that. Look at your social feeds and see how many people you know personally are getting COVID. Every day I'm seeing somebody that I know personally, someone new that I know personally, coming down with a positive case of COVID. And then, of course, if you weren't worried enough about COVID, now we got this fun monkeypox. You hear about this one? Monkeypox, which has apparently been around for quite a while, but we've got a couple of cases of it in the United States now. So all of you anti-vaxxers, you're probably going to have to get a monkeypox vaccination, and it's going to be well worth it, because it seems like monkeypox is not something you want to have. Anything can prove deadly, but it's something very uncomfortable that you do not want to get. It's never ending. Hold on to your butts, because COVID, monkeypox, what's next? The apocalypse, probably, who knows? It's just one thing after another. All right. Genuinely, almost a year ago, I was like, oh, maybe, and I'm sure you can find an episode where I was like, oh, we'll probably retire the COVID updates segment. Nope. Still here, everybody. All right, let's talk some mental health. I don't have a ton this week. I got to be honest, not a ton, but there's a couple important things. Number one, we are nearing the end of Mental Health Awareness Month. We should have one more episode, if barring any scheduling issues, for next weekend. But I do want to point out that despite the fact that Mental Health Awareness Month is ending, you need to be conscious of it all year round. Whether you're someone who suffers from mental illness, you know someone who suffers from mental illness, or you just respect the fact that we have worked so hard over the past 10, 20, 30, 40 years to end that stigma. And so even if you're not someone who deals with it personally, make sure you are an ally to ending the stigma 365 days a year, because it doesn't just exist in May. It's a 365-day a year struggle for many, many people out there, myself included. And another important thing to remember, and whether this applies to you or whether you're an ally, the weather's heating up. We are fast approaching summer. We had a couple 90-degree days here in Los Angeles recently. We cooled back down. We're getting right now what we call the May gray here in Southern California. We actually got a little bit of rain last weekend. It's very typical for the weather patterns here, despite everything going crazy because of climate change. But those hot days come in, and we're going to get to July, and it's going to be crazy hot. And the reason I'm talking about this is for those of you out there that aren't aware, and hopefully if you take medication like this, you are aware, but things like SSRIs and antidepressants, they can dehydrate you, and they can make you more sensitive to the heat and sunlight, meaning you can get a sunburn a little easier. So if you are on these types of medication, make sure you're hydrating, especially if you're going to be out in the heat, and you're also wearing sunblock. And even if you're not on these medications, but you know someone that is, make sure a gentle reminder is good. And myself included, I was like, oh yes, that's why I've been a little extra overheated lately, because the weather is warming up, So that's just a reminder for everyone out there. We don't have a ton this week, but we got some stuff sitting in the hopper that we'll probably talk about next week. Depending. You never know what's going to happen on a week-to-week basis, especially with COVID and everything else. So that's just added fuel to the fire, I guess. But, of course, we got to talk some positive news. This one I am very, very, very excited about. We're hearing about a new product that is coming out and will hopefully be available, widely available soon. And it's something called Tasty Tape. Tasty Tape. And tasty is spelled with two E's at the end instead of a Y. This isn't like bubble tape. We all remember bubble tape. If you're of a certain age, you remember bubble tape. Depending how old you are, if you're of that age, you tried to shove an entire bubble tape in your mouth and didn't really feel good trying to chew all that gum. But this isn't like bubble tape. What it is it's edible adhesive. Yes, you've heard that right. Don't start grabbing Scotch tape or duct tape and trying this, but some students at Johns Hopkins University have created this tape to solve the problem of things like burritos falling apart as you're trying to eat them. So they developed this tape, this edible tape, and an edible adhesive that goes on the tape that you can put over your burrito and you can eat it. And it's tasteless. It's not adding flavor to, although now that I'm saying it out loud, Cholula flavored tasty tape. Could get behind that. What you do is you use it to secure your burrito or your gyro, your taco, whatever anything you're trying to wrap up, sandwich wrap. Keep it from falling apart. It seems like such a little thing. And I'll be honest, I have lived in Southern California for a very, 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 very long time. I have eaten probably thousands of burritos. So I am a seasoned burrito eater, and I can tend to keep them together for the most part, unless you go to one of those places where the burrito's the size of your freaking arm. And so, no keeping that together. You're going to need a whole roll of this tasty tape. However, I see the appeal of this, and I would like to... I will definitely be trying this out once it's available widely. And good on these students at Johns Hopkins. This is the kind of innovation that we need more and more of. We don't need billionaires flying into space. We need real, and granted, this is not a big problem in the grand scheme of things. I would give up tasty tape if women could have equal rights in this country in a second. However, you have to appreciate young people, students, college, university students, who saw a problem and came up with a solution to it. And they're currently seeking a patent for it. So we don't know the exact ingredients that make it edible. We'll probably find that out once they get their patent approved. That's I'm not super familiar with the patent process, but I believe that's how it'll happen. They'll have to list like ingredients or whatever on the packaging. But that's going to be coming down at some point here, I'm sure, and we'll all be able to keep our burritos together. I could see the big usefulness is like in a car. Because you're eating a burrito like at your kitchen table, your dining room table, you're like, okay, it's falling. I'm going to grab a fork or just use my hands. I'm going to eat the stuff that's falling out. Or if you're brilliant, you put your tortilla chips under where you're eating a burrito and it falls on the tortilla chips. You eat it. I've lived in Southern California a long time, like I said. But in a car, that's real useful, where you do not want it spilling on you while you're trying to drive down the 405 and eating a burrito, although you don't really drive very fast down the 405. Those of you that live in Southern California know exactly what I mean. So thank you, students of Johns Hopkins. Looking forward to trying out some tasty tape when it becomes available. All right, let's get into a little bit of parenting. This is some good news, and I'm gonna do my best not to rant about it. But just today, we had emergency baby formula flown into the United States from Europe. Fortunately, the U.S. government was able to spend some money and get this imported over here for the extreme lack of baby formula that we are currently experiencing in this country. This is not something I've had to deal with personally. My child is 5. She has not been on formula or breast milk in many years. For the most part, she actually wasn't on formula, but this is the thing. If you don't give opinions if you don't understand it. Now, I said this not long after my child was born when we talked about, father duties and all this stuff, and the story at Target where the woman swore I needed a Mother's Day card, and they should make cards for you. Like, you mean like Father's Day card? No, like for you that takes care. It's called Father's Day. And I used to say, the only thing I can't do is breastfeed my child. And of course, when Bridget was on the live streams, she pointed out that I need to try, but I'd never tried. However, when you, even being around it, you know that sometimes there can be issues. It's not as simple as just breastfeeding a child. Sometimes a child needs supplemental formula if they aren't putting on weight quick enough when they're first born. I've seen this in many, friends' kids that I know. And I have a ton of friends that have had kids over the past couple of years. I'm just at that age where everyone, kids here and kids there, So if you don't know about it, it's not something you can speak about. You saw so many people going, well, just breastfeed. Just breastfeed. It's not that simple. Some people can't breastfeed. Have some respect for that. And in fact, I was in the store the other day and I heard a couple of workers, they were talking, the formula stuff. And this one woman goes, yeah, back in the 30s and 40s, they didn't have formula and those kids survived. And I'm like, yeah, and the life expectancy was like 40. So that's not an excuse. Oh, we're going to be just fine. Well, maybe, but let's try to fix it. And then, of course, for those of you not aware, we're going to get political for a second, but this is common sense political. The party of pro-life, finger quotes for those of you not watching the video feed, the party of pro-life, the GOP, the Republicans, 192 Republicans voted against spending money to get this emergency formula to the United States of America. 192. So again, they don't care about children. They are not pro-life. They just want to control women's bodies. If that was money going to military, all 192 of those reps would have voted in favor. Unfortunately, that is the ridiculousness of the country that we live in this day and age. But fortunately, the formula is here. So if you're a parent out there that's been trying to find formula, it's going to be easier to get, hopefully very, very, very soon. It is on American soil from what I had seen as of this morning or last night, something like that. Literally the military taking pallets and pallets and pallets of formula when we are very much in need of it. Oh, man. All right, this Rescue Rangers movie, you've probably seen the commercials and stuff, or if you're on any social platforms, it's popping up everywhere. It's on Disney Plus, streaming on Disney Plus. I have not watched it yet. I will probably get around to watching it. I don't quite have the Rescue Rangers nostalgia that a lot of people have. I was a little bit old for the Rescue Rangers cartoons. I do remember it, but I wasn't a big watcher of it. I was just past kind of that age group. Now, I probably will watch it because it looks like it's going to be funny. It is Andy Samberg and John Mulaney, I believe, are playing Chip and Dale. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's Chip and Dale. It's this cartoon they had on Disney Channel in the early 90s. I want to say like 1990 is when it started. So they've created this original movie that's streaming on Disney Plus, which is great. The reason I bring it up in parenting is because from what I can gather based on reviews and everything, it's not that the movie is bad for kids of a certain age. I think from what I can gather, it's going to be mostly lost on them, because this isn't what they've done is they have catered to the audience that were Rescue Rangers fans as kids, and it's basically packed with just a ton of 80s and 90s like nostalgia and pop culture nostalgia. So it's probably great depending on your age, but I don't know. This isn't a one to sit down family movie night with your kids, because they're probably just going to be like, what the hell are we watching here? So keep that in mind. And I'll probably watch it and then talk about it a little bit on one of the next episodes. But probably not a kid's movie, but not a kid's movie, if that makes any kind of sense. See, we just make up phrases here at Go Tell It to the Wall. All right, and I'm still adjusting to a dog with a kid. It's a new adventure every day, and I will say, and I'm sure plenty of you out there have dealt with this. Definitely getting better, but still tough. The one is the kid getting the dog fired up. That's still happening like crazy. I'm like, it is 8:30 at night. You need to be going to bed. Why is the dog running circles around the house? She's yelling and laughing and everything else. And he can't be that upset about it, but it's like, all right, let's get into our rhythm here. A lot going on with that dog. And walking a dog and containing a 5-year-old can be a bit of a challenge, and especially when it comes to walking home from school, because what I'm doing is I'm carrying the kid's backpack. I've got the dog on a leash, and I've got her holding one hand. And of course, I live in a much more urban area. It's not suburban. It's residential, but there's still a lot of cars and stuff like that. So you got to be real conscious walking around my neighborhood. It's not dangerous, but you can't just go running down the street. You got to watch out for these things, and it's a constant challenge when I'm doing these things by myself. But it's just something that's got to be done. I was joking with my wife the other day, though, because I got home, and she was working in the studio. She tries to go pick up the kid with me, but can't always do it. And I came back, and I was just, like, exhausted. And she goes, what's going on? I was like, I feel like I was on one of those medieval stretching racks, because you get the dog running one way, and you get the kid running the other way, and you're just like, okay, come back together. But getting better and better and better. I will say that. And that's the interesting thing that we learned from the rescue person is there's this like rule of 3-3-3. So it takes 3 days to hit a certain point with a rescue dog, which we're obviously past. And then 3 weeks for them to really get more and more comfortable, which we have just passed. And then 3 months for them to really become fully settled in their new environment. So I'm sure these challenges will continue, at least for a couple months, but well worth it. I don't mean this as a negative toward having the dog. I did not want a dog to begin with because it's just more stuff to deal with, but I will say he's been a joy to have around. And maybe a denim vest arrived for him the other day, and I'm working on getting some patches on there for him. So if you got some good patches for a dog vest, send them my way. He's already got a few that are going on there. I haven't done it yet, but he'll be styling with his denim vest out there. All right, this is the heavy content of the week. I got to be honest. We actually might finish up a little early today. I got a lot going on. We've had some long episodes lately, but this is the heavy content section of episode 78 of Common Sense Sundays, and that would be the common sense section. We're going to get into it here. A lot of common sense being needed in the world. A lot of hypocrisy going on as well. Just like I said, the party of pro-life, and they're not wanting to help kids that are in need of formula. Hypocrisy. And of course, more and more of this, and that's basically the theme of Common Sense segment this week, is hypocrisy. And we're going to start off with Speaker of the House Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi. She lives in Washington, but lives in San Francisco. That's part of her district is near San Francisco. I don't know exactly district line wise, but she's San Francisco. She also happens to be Catholic, much like Joe Biden. Well, the Archbishop of San Francisco, the Diocese of San Francisco, for those of you not familiar, it all funnels up to the Pope, but then, much like any kind of organization, you have regional directors, district managers, or whatever else, and it's kind of the same. So over a city area, what they call a diocese, a bishop is in charge. And if they are of a certain higher stature, they are an archbishop, and possibly even a cardinal, which is kind of the next step to then being Pope. I know I'm giving you too much information that you probably don't care about, but just so you have an understanding of how this is coming down. So the Archbishop of San Francisco put out a statement and said he will refuse, and everybody in that diocese should refuse to give Nancy Pelosi communion. That's the little host that you see. Even if you've never been Catholic, you've seen, they get a little host. We call it communion or the Eucharist. That's what they call it. I haven't been many, many years since I've received it, but it is very important to people of the Catholic faith. And if you remember, we actually talked about this like a year ago because some bishops had said that Joe Biden should not be able to receive communion. And the reason behind that is, of course, their stance on women's rights. I'm not even going to call it their stance on abortion. I'm going to call it their stance on women's rights. They believe that women should have equal rights in this country when it comes to their own health care and their own bodies. Makes sense. Makes common sense. So on top of that, here we have an archbishop that's riling this up and making a big deal about it and wanting to deny one of the tenets of the Catholic faith to Nancy Pelosi. Here's the thing. We talked about this about a year ago when certain bishops said that Biden shouldn't be able to receive communion in church. And what happened? The Pope came out and said no bishops should be denying communion for political reasons. And again, it's not a political reason. It is an equal rights reason. Pelosi and Biden and many others are on the correct side of history when it comes to women's rights and women's health rights. So we have a bishop who's clearly just trying to make headlines and make a big deal over something that he shouldn't even be messing with because the Pope said you can't do that. And for those of you, again, not familiar with the Catholic Church, the Pope is the end-all be-all. Catholics believe that the Pope is appointed by God, literally. The cardinals get together and they decide who's going to be the next Pope when a Pope dies or steps down, like Pope Benedict. But they believe that God is speaking through them as to who the next Pope should be. So we have an archbishop in San Francisco who's going against his own church and his own religion that believes the person he is defying was appointed by God. You cannot make this shit up. Honestly. But that's the problem with organized religion. I have no problem with people participating in religion and having faith in all these other things. It's not really for me as much as I consider myself a spiritual person, for lack of a better word. I mean, honestly. But if you want to however, you cannot be a hypocrite about it. And you can't go against who's supposed to be the end-all be-all when it comes to your own religion. And that's why a lot of people have problems with certain organized religions. It's the hypocrisy and the trying to take away rights. So that's got to stop. But of course, here we are still dealing with it. And I'm so sick of the bullshit from religion. I am. And I believe I said this one before. Jesus, that Jesus in the Bible said, before you look at the splinter in your neighbor's eye, meaning, it's small, and bear with me on this, look at the plank in your own eye. There was also, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. As far as I'm concerned, that archbishop in San Francisco is not adhering to either of those tenets of the Catholic religion. Am I shocked? No, not in the least. All right, Madison Cawthorn. Whew, that guy. Horrible, horrible human being. He lost his primary. He's going to no longer be a congressman. So, I mean, this could have been positive news as well, because he's nowhere near a congressman for my area. He's not my congressman. I can say that as a fact, not like, not my president. No, he's not my congressman. But if you followed that guy at all, nothing good's coming out of his mouth. He's trying to take guns onto airplanes. He's getting pulled over for driving without a license, all kinds of crazy stuff. And the stuff that comes out of his mouth, cocaine orgies in Washington. You're, buddy, there's crazy and then there's crazy. And that guy's crazy. So he lost his primary. So they don't even have a new congressperson, but he doesn't get to run for re-election, essentially, is what's going on there. And the reason I bring this up is he came out and made a statement, of course, and he said that we're all going to need to watch out for, and I quote, dark MAGA, like the MAGA ass hats, but not just Make America Great Again, dark Make America Great Again. Nobody even knows what the hell he's talking about. But that's what's going on right now in Madison Cawthorn's world. Not going to miss you, buddy. I don't think anybody's going to miss you. And in fact, your own constituents are not going to miss you because they voted your ass out. You didn't even get to run for the real re-election. You lost in the primary to someone else in your party. It's a beautiful thing to see, I got to say. Let's get all these hypocrites and idiots the hell out of politics. I mean, they're all... I've always said this from the beginning. Like, it takes a certain person to be you grow up wanting to be a politician. It takes a certain person, and you got a little sliminess no matter what side of the aisle you fall on if you're being a politician. But let's get rid of like these kind of guys who are just spouting off and don't know what the hell they're talking about. Oh, Don Jr. Speaking of rich white dudes, we got a lot of that this week. Don Jr. So this happened a while ago, and I think we kind of knew it happened. He went on a hunting trip and shot a bear. Trophy hunting. I've said this many times on this podcast. I'm a meat eater. I am a carnivore. I have no problem with hunting with a rifle if you're going to utilize the animal you are killing for feeding someone or for something else, instead of just trophy hunting so you can put a bear rug in your house. It's not necessary. You don't need a goddamn bear rug. Get a synthetic bear rug. It looks the same and nobody's going to care. In fact, people are going to care less because they don't think you're an asshole for just shooting animals for fun. Well, so he shot a bear, and I think we knew about this a while ago. I believe it happened in Colorado. What has happened is the hunting guide, because that's a thing. You got to have a hunting guide to go shoot big bears and stuff. We now learn that the hunting guide baited the bear, which is apparently illegal. I don't know much about trophy hunt. I don't know anything about trophy hunting except that it's disgusting. It's illegal to do that. And now what's happening is this hunting guide is facing charges, I believe federal charges, and is facing prison time for this illegal baiting of a bear that was shot by Don Jr. This is a perfect example of laws in this country and how they don't apply to rich white people. And I'm going to finger quote rich because I'm pretty sure the Trump family is a little bit of fake rich there, but I digress. That is the epitome of what's wrong with this country and the judicial system in this country. You're not going to get in trouble if you have money and you're white. Just doesn't happen. We're hearing constant things about politicians. Oh, all this news is coming down and January 6th committee and everything. Nothing's happening. Why? It's a bunch of rich white people. And right there is an example of what's happening. So this, and don't get me wrong, I don't. The hunting guide probably wasn't in the right either. But why is he didn't shoot the bear? And he's going to likely go to face prison time over that while Don Jr. just walks around his house doing cocaine on his bear rug. Oh, college coaches. More rich white dudes. Yeah. This one's a little sports related, but not really fully sports related. I'll give you a little background. And this is something I've talked about on this podcast, and you've probably heard of even if you're not a sports fan. And that's college athletes being able to make money while they're in college. For the longest time, you couldn't make any money. You couldn't even take a meal from a booster at a college. You would get in trouble for that. Well, they have rectified that over the past couple years, and now we have what are called name and image likeness deals, NIL deals. So these college kids are able to sell their image, their own personality, and make money while they play college sports. Well, what happened this week is two of the most prominent coaches in college football decided to start jarring at each other via news conference and complain about how, well, they just bought every player on their team, and then the other coach says, well, he's not God. What is... All over kids being able to make money and make a living instead of just going out and playing sports and making nothing for it outside of a scholarship and an education. The reason this bothers me the most is both those coaches, this is Nick Saban and Jimbo in Alabama, who I very much do not like Nick Saban, and Jimbo Fisher down there at Texas A&M, who I am gradually liking less and less. I never liked him, but I never disliked him, but now I'm kind of disliking him a little. They are fighting over this. They both make almost $10 million a year. $10 million a year on the backs of these student athletes. They have no right to complain whatsoever. And I don't care what the complaint is. Shut your mouth, go coach. If you can't coach anymore, then just get out the game. Don't be upset because now your players are making a fraction of what you make every year to yell at them and coach football. And go sit in living rooms and convince parents that that's the best option for their kid. That's enough of that. Adapt or quit, as far as I'm concerned. All right, more news. revolving around common sense. You may or may not have seen this one, but the new Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue is coming out. I haven't perused a Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue since I was probably like 12. Back then that was oh, you got the swimsuit issue. This is back in the days of, I don't even remember who, Kathy Ireland was in there and stuff, and not really for me, but you know what, it's a thing. And they have done a great job over the past few years being inclusive with people who have differently abled people, women who have been in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, as well as women who are not paper thin. And what's happened is this year for the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, the cover person, which is obviously, that's a big honor. Whether you know Sports Illustrated or not, the person on the cover of a magazine, that's a big honor to be on the cover of a magazine, regardless of the magazine. I mean, unless you're like a criminal in there, that's maybe not an honor, but you get what I'm saying here. So what's happened is this Yumi Nu, who is a plus-size model, I'm finger quoting, and she's rated as a plus-size model. The reason I finger quote is because I've seen her. She does not strike me as a very large individual by any means. So she is on the cover of Sports Illustrated. But again, she's also not paper thin. She's not a stick. Okay. Well, what happened was the cover was posted somewhere on the social platforms, and a lot of people were like, yes, this is very empowering. Thank you for featuring women that look like other women, and all these kind of things. But then, of course, you got the douchebags that come out of the works, right? Oh, this is disgusting. One of those douchebags happens to be Jordan Peterson. I still don't know what the hell he does. I think he's some kind of author. He came out and said, this is terrible. This does not turn me on at all. Well, first of all, Jordan, go ahead and look in the mirror. You ain't turning on anyone yourself either, so calm it down. And all I'm going to say about this is we talked about Jordan Peterson a little while back, fairly recently. And if you don't remember, the one that is criticizing Sports Illustrated and hating on a beautiful model who's on the cover of Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, he was also the one that was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and where he, a white male, and another white male debated how black you have to be considered black. That was a real thing. I talked about it, and that should end all kind of credibility for Jordan Peterson right there. I don't want to hear about that man's opinion ever, 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 ever again. And the bottom line is he's dead wrong. Dead wrong. Like, sorry, just go pick up a magazine with stick-thin models. Come on. We're not here to cater to you, Mr. Peterson. Go back on Rogan and debate something stupid that you have no right to debate at all. Which is what he's doing here. Okay, well, good old Elon. Oh, Elon. Can't wait until we just don't hear about him anymore. I don't think it's coming anytime soon. But we got word this week. That whole Twitter purchase from Mr. Musk over there, that's been put on hold. Because he's worried there are too many bots on the Twitter platform. And it wasn't valued properly because there are more bot accounts than what were stipulated when he agreed to purchase Twitter. That right there should tell you all you need to know. I am not a businessman. I don't go out and spend a bunch of money buying platforms and stuff. However, I could have told you that a lot of Twitter is bots. That's just how it is. It's kind of common knowledge. And even if Elon Musk didn't know it, you would think he'd have someone moderately intelligent nearby him to say, yo, there's a lot more bots than you're considering while wanting to make this purchase. So what can we derive from this? Elon Musk is essentially the biggest troll around. And this was all just a big, weird publicity stunt. I don't think he's going to end up buying Twitter at all. He just wanted to stir things up and then get on Twitter and make a bunch of noise and do all these stupid things. All of it was stupid. And now this is the fallout from it. So all you tweeters out there, you don't have to worry about the stupid spaceman coming after your platform. You're probably still going to have it because he did all this just as a big publicity stunt. That's all it was. That's all it was. Making noise. That's what these rich, famous people do. There is a saying, and it's true. You may not think it's true. And I knew this before film school, but it was reiterated when I went to film school. There's no such thing as bad publicity. There isn't. Especially when you're someone like Elon Musk, who doesn't care what people think about him and just wants to watch the world burn, for lack of a better phrase. All right, Herschel Walker, not a rich white guy, but another douchebag nonetheless. He is running for the hell is he running for? Governor of Georgia? Georgia Senate? What? He's running for something down there in Georgia. I don't care. I don't get to vote for him. Hopefully he's not going to make it anywhere because he's got some hateful views, and he definitely falls onto that Trumper umbrella there. But, of course, he just continues to do it. And he came out recently and said that every single kind of abortion should be banned, regardless. Technically pregnant for a week? Nope. You're going to die from Nope. From having a baby? Nope. No abortion for you. You got raped? Nope. No abortion for you. That is the farthest end of this debate that you can get to. He wants women to have no rights over their body at all. But that's where we are. The reason I bring this up is not only because it's ridiculous. This pro-life politician, we kind of know this for a fact. He pulled a gun and pulled a gun on his wife as well as a knife and threatened to kill his wife. You think he cares about people's lives? I'm going to go with no on that one. But again, no such thing as bad publicity. And the whole Trump cult, they're all going to be, yeah, Herschel Walker, while they wave their Nazi flags and talk about white replacement theory or whatever. No, but since he thinks these things, they're going to get behind him. All right, let's get into some entertainment and finish up for the week. I'm exhausted, and I still smell like campfire. I don't know why that would have changed with me sitting in the studio. I'm locked in a studio right now. I got to go wash my hair later, and maybe that'll get rid of it. I'm due for a haircut, too. I'm looking scraggly here. The beard's getting out of hand. I need a haircut real bad. I think I'm going to make that happen later today or tomorrow. Fortunately, I don't have to go far to get my haircut. I just cut it in the house. Honey, need a haircut. 5 minutes later, good to go. All right, entertainment news. Kate McKinnon on SNL. Kate McKinnon. She had her last SNL episode last night. I believe Saturday Night Live ended for the season as of last night. Yesterday was Saturday, of course. And now that was her last episode with Saturday Night Live as a cast member. Of course, we're going to see her back as a host, I'm sure. Now, I haven't really been a Saturday Night Live watcher since the very, very early 90s. I stopped watching after like Will Ferrell and Norm Macdonald and kind of those guys and ladies that were cast members at that time, Molly Shannon and stuff. So never been a big watcher. I will say, however, I've been a big fan of Kate McKinnon for a very long time. If I'm watching clips from Saturday Night Live, it tends to be Kate McKinnon. I think she is brilliant. I think she's a comedic genius. And I hope to see her in more other stuff now. Because that's the thing with Saturday Night Live. They can do other. You have time for other stuff, but you don't have a lot of time. That is a very, very much full-time job. And as is most acting gigs. But there's a lot of prep that goes in all week. They have to do a live show. Eats up a lot of time. So maybe we'll see Kate McKinnon getting into kind of some other things, over the next few years. But good on you, Kate. Loved watching the segments, despite the fact that I was not a full episode watcher. But she's one of the funniest people I've seen in entertainment over the past couple years. But then there's this thing, Multiverse of Madness. I haven't even seen it. I am not. It's the Marvel thing, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. I haven't seen it. I am not even fully caught up on Disney movies. I don't think. I haven't seen the Spider-Man stuff. I haven't seen Spider-Man since Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Okay, I tried to watch the animated one, and I'm not enough into that style of animation to appreciate it. And I definitely haven't seen the live action ones. However, I know all kinds of things about the Multiverse of Madness because it's nothing but memes about the Multiverse of Madness. And I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but what I will say is based on the memes and the information that I see getting disseminated on digital social platforms, it's just too much to keep up with for me. I got to be honest. Good on you fans out there that can keep up with all this stuff. It's the same thing with Star Wars now. We got just all over the place. And multiverse, literally other universes. I can't. I don't understand what's going on. And as much as I have enjoyed some Marvel movies over the years, I think I've tapped out on the Marvel movies just because it's too much to keep up with. Now, of course, when the new Deadpool movie comes out, I will, if it's safe, I will be seeing it in the theater, and even if it's not safe, I'll be getting it, purchasing it as soon as it's available, because I'm not a huge Marvel movie fan, but I love me some Deadpool movies, and of course, part of that is my man crush on the great Ryan Reynolds. All right, Less Than Jake. I was waiting for this one. They've been touring a bit. They're touring with Bowling for Soup. They were over in Europe recently. They might still be over there. I was waiting As they keep touring, they're like, more shows coming, more shows coming. There was no West Coast. And last week, they announced the West Coast leg of that tour. And it looks like they're going to be here in Southern California in September. I'll be honest, I have already purchased my tickets for 2 shows in one weekend, 2 of them. I'm going to see them at the House of Blues and some place called the Belasco Theater, which weirdly I've never been to as a venue, but I've heard now that it is a venue. And maybe not the best venue, nothing against Belasco. I'll kind of get my own opinion when I go there in September or maybe a show before then. But it is Less Than Jake. So I forked over the cash, and I'll be seeing him twice in September. So if you're a Less Than Jake fan or a ska fan or a Bowling for Soup fan, make sure you're checking out that West Coast leg of the tour there because it just got announced last week. All right, and one more thing, and we're going to call it an episode. United Defiance. United Defiance. We got a sticker right there. United Defiance on the wall there. They're going to be in town on Friday. They're actually going to be at Characters in Pomona. I should be out there, barring anything popping up, all that kind of good stuff. Might be out there a little late. My kids got Daisy Scouts on Friday, but that's okay. We'll get out there and check out United Defiance among other bands playing at Characters on Friday, May 27th. And so if you're going to go there, I love Characters. That's the thing. Big festivals and hella mega tour. Yeah, put me in a small club with a great band. That's my happy place right there. So I should be out there, and if you're going to go out there, hit me up for some stickers because I'll have them in my pocket and whatnot. All right, that's going to do it for this week. I'm exhausted. I don't know why I'm so exhausted. I'm actually not that exhausted. I think the campfire smell is just kind of getting to me at this point. I probably should go walk the dog because he's due for a little bit of walk here soon. Good old Falcor. He's getting groomed on Wednesday, too. He's desperately in need of a grooming. For those of you that aren't familiar with, certain dog breeds, like poodles, and he's like this poodle mix, they don't shed. So you literally have to get them groomed. They have to get a haircut. And he's hitting the point where, the fur is getting in his eyes, and I'm just I feel so bad. The earliest appointment I could get was Wednesday. So he's gonna be looking all fancy on Wednesday and hopefully feeling a little better with all that hair out of the way. All right. We should be back next weekend. I don't see why not. No scheduling conflicts at this time, but we'll keep everyone up to date. Make sure you're following us on Facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. That's where you're going to get all those kind of updates. And, of course, YouTube.com/GoTellItToTheWall. That's where these video feeds get posted the Monday after. They are, of course, also posted to Facebook. But you're going to find all of our beer reviews, Mental Health Mondays, all that great stuff, the parenting playlist on YouTube. So make sure you're subscribed to our channel, youtube.com/GoTellItToTheWall. And you can also keep up with me during the week on Instagram at SoCalSean, SoCalSean. That's my own personal Instagram account, like I always say. And so you're going to get some good stuff on there related to the podcast and some stuff that's not necessarily related to the podcast. There's a super cute photo of my new pup wearing his denim vest that was up there recently, and super cute photos of my kid, in addition to a lot of show photos and, of course, Go Tell It's the Wall content. So make sure you're following me over there. And don't forget SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's their official website for everything that is Go Tell It's the Wall, Common Sense Sundays, Go Tell It's the Brewery, and, of course, me, Sean O'Rourke. So bookmark that one. And if you have the means to do so, please help us out on Patreon or pick up some Common Sense Go Tell It to the Wall merch through our merch website, which is linked right there on SeanO'RourkeLive.com. All right, like I said, we should be back next week. Same wall place, similar wall time, depending on what's going on. This has been episode 78 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. And until next time, wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers, remember, no matter what you do, no matter who you're with, no matter where you go, and especially no matter why you are doing it, always use common sense.